But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Vice President Kamala Harris officially concedes the presidential election to Donald Trump after a decisive win for the former president in last night's election. And this comes less than a day after the two presidential candidates battled across the country for the White House. Thank you so much for joining us on News Channel 3 Live at 11. I'm Jessica Harthorn.
Good evening. I'm Andy Dominiani. Last night's election was called in the early hours of this morning. As you now know, Donald Trump ultimately winning all key battleground states that both he and Harris had toured dozens of times, and that includes ours. And the vice president addressed her supporters on the campus of her alma mater today, Howard University, saying she's proud of the campaign she ran. And she also announced she had called the former president to concede the election and congratulate him on his victory. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump, now President-elect Trump, is celebrating a massive electoral college victory for himself and for the Republican Party as a whole. Trump was able to swing all of the battleground states to the right this election, ultimately winning Michigan by more than 50,000 votes. Now, for many, the results of this election came as a bit of a surprise. That's especially true for the battleground states where former President Trump secured sustained leads.
And News Channel 3's Colin Roos joining us live in the studio after speaking with a political expert tonight. And Colin, he has some insight into what factors may have led to the red wave that we're now seeing.
That's right. Here in Southwest Michigan, Kamala Harris only won 2 counties, Kent and Kalamazoo. Donald Trump picked up all the other counties in our area, often by wide margins. And analysts say the results all come down to one message: the fundamentals matter.
Well, I want to thank you all very much.
It was an election that changed the blue wall to red. Donald Trump succeeded in pulling out a victory in many areas of the country considered electoral toss-ups after polls predicted a tight race. That includes Michigan, which he won by nearly 82,000 votes. Exit polls showed that Trump did better with those voting on immigration and financial issues, concerns that experts say resonated better with Great Lakes state voters.
A big part of running for president is showing why people should vote for you. What difference are you going to make?
Dr. Peter Wheelhauser is an associate professor of political science at WMU. He says the fundamentals of a successful presidential run are the popularity of the incumbent and the state of the economy, both areas in which Harris struggled.
Both of those worked against her, and she didn't really set herself apart from Biden in that way. So the voters didn't receive that message, and they ended up going with the challenger.
One such demographic was the Arab American vote, a major priority for the Democratic coalition and a group concerned about the current conflict in the Middle East. The Detroit metro area saw a depressed turnout for Harris, hovering close to 50%.
Those vote totals, for example, from Dearborn, clearly shifted far away from Harris, especially in comparison to Biden in 2020 and Clinton in 2016.
Wheelhauser says the final Michigan results reflect a messaging problem from the Harris-Walz campaign. He believes it should have spent more time talking to voters and addressing what they wanted, saying it's a lesson future politicians should keep in mind.
Listening to the base of the party, listening to the bulk of the electorate is just a tremendous skill and something that many campaigns take for granted.
Dr. Wheelhauser says Trump underperformed among groups who were concerned about abortion law and challenges to democracy. Those were two of the main groups the Harris-Walz campaign reached out to, but he says they weren't large enough to hand her the election. Live in the studio, Colin Roos, News Channel 3.
All right, Colin, thank you. Governor Gretchen Whitmer, meantime, who is a Democrat and who campaigned long and hard for Kamala Harris, issued a statement on the election results today. She says, quote, "The American people have spoken. I wish President-elect Trump the best of luck after a peaceful transfer of power. I hope he leads by trying to unite people, including those who did not vote for him or do not support him. That's what a president must do for the good of our country."
And while most of the country is focusing on the big wins for the Republican Party, one race in Michigan has been called for the Democrats. Democrat Alyssa Slotkin faced off against Republican Mike Rogers for Michigan's open U.S. Senate seat. That race was neck and neck for most of the night, but Slotkin ultimately winning that seat by nearly 20,000 votes. Slotkin has a background in national security, working for the Bush and Obama administrations. Sitting U.S. Senator Senator Debbie Stabenow retired back in January, announcing her full support for Slotkin's bid for the Senate seat.
Such an honor to represent Michigan in the United States Senate. It was the right decision for me and my family, and I'm so thrilled that I'm going to be able to pass the torch to my friend Alyssa Slotkin. She will do a terrific job.
And this win also marks a major milestone for Democrats, as Slotkin is the youngest Democratic woman to serve in the U.S. Senate.